I have a question.
Yeah,
Do you think Cody Brown knows about slugging?
it would explain a lot, honestly.
It
I
would
was watching
explain.
clips from like 5 or 6 seasons ago. The man looks 10 years younger today. His skin, his hair, his hair is clownish. It's absurd,
Yeah.
but it is intentional.
There's somebody behind the scenes, must be behind the scenes because we know it's not Robin because she
No, she
looks.
has gone the other direction.
Yeah.
Not to talk about a woman's appearance disparagingly,
No.
but girl, the sausage
No.
curls, the eyebrows, it all is not. It needs to be sorted out.
Yes. You can tell that her sister wives have not been looking out for her. They've been trying to
No.
sabotage her.
Nor have her fans or her many children. I love that we are already talking about Cody. It's impossible to resist.
No, can't resist.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Please Bless This podcast. This is the podcast where two sisters talk about all things Mormon and pop culture. And sometimes, a lot of the times, again and again, we talk about sister wives.
Yeah, everybody's favorite fundamentalist Mormons.
Yeah. We're so sorry if you weren't ready for more sister wives content. Buckle up and get ready because the new season has started. We are a few episodes in. And there's just so much to talk about.
Yeah, it's been an emotional ride thus far. Things are really popping off in the world of the Browns.
They really are. I have to say, I thought they would make us wait weeks and weeks and weeks before they would show us the fight between Cody and Janelle. And then when I knew it was coming in the third episode, I thought they're going to start it at the very end and it'll be like a to be continued. No. Most of the third episode is their fight.
Yeah.
And I was heated watching it.
Oh my gosh, I was on my feet. I was so mad. I was like, throw his ass out.
Yeah. I'm gasping. I'm like pulling my hair out.
Yeah. That man, the
Feverishly
audacity.
taking notes.
Yes. Yes. This season is off to quite the start. I was going to mention, did you notice the new intro sequence?
Yes.
With the falling ring?
Ooh.
Did you pick up on
ring,
that?
it's like sad music. All of them are separated, which I think they've been doing that for a few seasons, but like not quite like this.
Yeah.
The tone, it has shifted. And
right.
I'm here for it. This show delivers.
Yeah, I like how the intro with them all being separated, it kind of looks like the start of a video game and you're like choosing your fighter.
Choose your fighter. And obviously your fighter is Janelle.
Yes.
An apple-shaped queen.
Although I do appreciate Christine's ability to just like laugh in Cody's face.
Oh, yeah. So let's take this chronologically. Let's move through these episodes because there's just so much to talk about. So we kick off episode 1. It's just been a few weeks since the end of the previous season, which kind of frustrated me because I was like, wait, we're not even caught up to what we know based on their like one-on-one sit-down interviews that they did. Like in the first episode, Janelle and Cody are still together. It's just been a little while since Christine moved. And I was like, oh, well, I'm a little frustrated by this. But I take it all back. I don't care. I want to see every minute. I don't want to miss a thing.
Exactly. Exactly. There's a lot to see. Like, I do kind of want to see every little fight. Like, I just do. Like, that might be boring to some people because they're like, we know they're not together anymore and let's move on. This is, I want to hear every word of it.
Same. So one of our first scenes is actually Janelle and Christine together. We get a lot of scenes of them together, especially considering Christine doesn't even live in the same state anymore.
Yeah.
And we learned that they still call each other sister wives.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Me too.
Yeah, it shows they're just claiming that title for their relationship regardless of Cody.
Right. It's their dedication to the game. It's very much like we were doing it. We were doing it all the way and you screwed it up.
Yeah. Christine and Janelle didn't get divorced. They're
Right.
still partnering together to raise their kids and be a family. I love it because polygamy is such an inherently patriarchal structure. Like, it all centers around the man and his many wives and children. And without him, these families cease to exist, right? And
Right.
like, we see that throughout Mormon history and also in contemporary polygamy. Like, um, when a man dies, for instance, his wives get snapped up by other men in the
Mhm.
community. Um, so yeah, it all circulates around the man, and they're both like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah. It's over for him. It's not over for us. We're still a
Yeah,
family.
I love it so much.
Yeah, they just get to be rid of him.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Oh, and aren't they happier for it?
Yeah.
So the other like big scene in the first episode is Christine and Cody go out to lunch.
Yeah, it's awesome, honestly.
And he is so mad,
Yeah.
just simmering right under the surface with
Mhm.
rage.
Yeah.
And she is like fully laughing in his face.
Yeah, she was his wife forever.
Yeah.
She knows exactly where he's at. She
Mm-hmm.
knows exactly where he's at. He's at an 11. She knows exactly how to push his buttons, but not too far.
Yep.
Keep him there. She gets to be the good guy, but she still gets to be like, you really screwed this up, and I'm going to have fun with it. I'm
Yep.
having fun with it.
At some point in that conversation, he said something about how they should do like couples therapy to help them through their divorce. And she's like, why? Really?
Yeah. She's
And
like,
then
"Oh,
she's
you're
like, oh, you're
still."
mad?
Yeah. Oh, well, okay.
Yeah. And then you cut to her interview and she's like, oh, I know he's mad. Oh, I know we're never doing therapy because he says
Exactly.
this. He's been saying this, but he
Right.
has no
He would
follow through.
never.
Like, she is reading him for filth and not hiding her like blatant mockery of him.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
It's satisfying to watch.
Mhm. But then cut to Robin because she can't
Mhm.
help but chime in.
Yep.
Miss Robin, I would do couples therapy with any of my sister wives.
Prove it,
And
Robin.
why haven't you?
Right. Call a therapist, set it up. 5 years ago, do it. Like,
Right.
she does this all the time where she's like, I would do anything to keep this family together. Well, what are you doing then? I would go to therapy with any of them. Then plan it, book it. Like,
Mhm.
just saying the words doesn't make it so. Like, she just performs that she is the one willing to sacrifice anything and do anything.
Yeah, she's not willing to take action. She just cries. And
Mhm.
I think that she feels like because she's the only one who cries,
Yeah.
that it kind of places her in a certain place in the hierarchy. Like, I
Yeah.
am feeling this more than everybody else, and this is hurting me more than it's hurting everybody else. And so
Totally.
that's all I need to do.
Yes. And I don't want to say that tears are inherently manipulative or always used in a
No.
manipulative way. I think tears can be like very authentic and genuine. I think in the patterns we've seen with her, she's a manipulative crier. She
Yes.
cries to like hold on to control and also to hold on to this narrative about like her unimpeachability in the family.
Mhm.
Like, she couldn't possibly be a part of the problem. Look at her over there crying about the problem.
Right. She can't believe it's happening. She's
No,
so
she
shocked.
doesn't understand it.
Right.
She loves to do that too. There's this point where she's like, I really don't see what the deal breakers are between Christine and Cody. They're divorced. The deal is broken. That's what the deal breaker is. It's over.
Right.
It has been
And like,
declared over.
and it's just she really lets herself play dumb. Like, she's not a dumb person, but she's willing
Mhm.
to let herself look a little bit dumb for the plot. Like,
Yeah.
she's like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back? And it's like, dummy, it's not one thing. You've
Right.
been around.
Right.
You know these people. Shut up.
I mean, we know these people. We can see it. We're just watching them on TV. You're living with them, except apparently not.
Ugh.
So, like, it's pretty apparent. Just open your eyes and stop playing games. That takes us to one of my favorite quotes. This is from episode 2.
Tell me.
Where Christine says, I don't think Robin's ever lived plural marriage.
Yo. What a thing to say.
Yeah.
I wish that she had elaborated more. I am
know.
waiting for Christine, Janelle, any of them. You know what I really want?
Please.
Deep down. I want Mary to pop off. Can you imagine?
It's just a matter of time before Mary drops the facade and is like, I'm just going to say what's true. Because Cody has completely iced her out of the family. Let's be real.
Mm-hmm.
And Robin's only keeping her in because Mary's all she's got.
Yes.
And it's just a matter of time before Mary's like, forget it. I'm not doing this anymore. And also, let's be for real about what this is. I mean, Christine says, so she says, like, I don't think Robin's ever lived plural marriage. I mean, ever since, even before they got together. And then she cuts herself off. She's like, there's no point getting into it. And I'm like, wait, what hasn't happened since before? I'm like, my mind went wild. I was like, are you about to say that, like, Cody stopped having sex with his other wives even before? I mean, that it's been that long. That's where my head went immediately.
Yeah.
Is like, oh, she's never shared him at all.
Right.
Not that sex is the only important way to share a partner. That's silly, but I was just like, where are you going, Christine? I want you to go there. I want to hear what you have to say.
Right. But if he's having, like, your normal sexual relationships with his other 3 wives before he marries her and then not having sexual relationships with them anymore, that is a big deal.
That's a huge shift.
Yes.
We also can pretty much pick up on that he's not having sexual relationships with his wives.
No.
And hasn't for quite some time. Like, at this point, I think Mary has clocked it's been like at least 8 years since they've had what she calls any kind of husband and wife dynamic, whatever that means. Janelle, I would suspect it has been a long time based on everything about their dynamic.
Yeah.
Christine, I would suspect it's been a long time, considering too how he was like, I've never even been attracted to you. When they split up, doesn't make me think he's been like a healthy sexual partner to her. Yeah. The math isn't mathing here.
It's not.
And I want to know. But this is what I love about them all leaving is now they're going to say that kind of stuff. Like Christine's like, I'm divorced. I can just say it. Once there's more of them, they're just going to say it.
Right. As the apples start to fall, more and more is going to come out.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
The other big reveal of episode 2. So it's right before the holidays that these episodes are being filmed. We learn that there's a group text among all of the kids across all 4 moms to plan a sibling gift exchange. And initially, it's just the siblings making the plans. For some reason, they decide to bring the parents in. And Robin is like, we need to do a video call. How many kids are there? I mean, in the 20s.
Like 20.
Right?
Yeah.
20 something. Like a lot of people to coordinate on a video call quickly. Like, that's a big ask, right?
Yeah. These are like adults in most cases, working, living all spread across the map. These aren't people who can just jump on a call.
But just as hard to get adults on a video call is to get little children. And there are also little children on this group chat. So they're like, that's kind of tricky. Can we coordinate it this way? And she, because they won't do what she wants, she is like, I just gave up. Why am I even trying? And then it seems like there was some passive aggressive stuff said from a number of people, but Robin specifically apparently said something like, my kids don't even know what their siblings look like anymore. And someone said, well, one video call isn't gonna change that. So Robin, the adult in the room, is coming in to like fuck up this sibling gift exchange.
Yep.
What the heck, man?
Yep. She's like, you know what? I'm blowing this up.
Yes.
Sorry, kids.
And then somehow makes it they are excluding me and my children.
Right.
They
Yeah,
didn't.
and
They
then
included your children.
they included them, and then yeah, she and all of her children pull out of the group chat.
Mm-hmm. And out of
Really
the
nice,
gift exchange
Robin.
and out of the holiday, essentially. They're just like, bye.
And yet it's a surprise that everybody is doing Christmas elsewhere and doesn't
Yeah.
feel welcome. It's like
And
she makes it
Robin,
impossible.
she doesn't get what's wrong. What's the problem, everybody? I can't think of almost any show where it is so clear who is the villain and who is the hero. Like, I watch a fair amount of reality TV, and I am sometimes stunned to learn that, like, people are fans of characters that I'm like, "Really? That's who you like on this show?"
Hmm.
It's there's often, like, a mix of opinions.
Yeah.
I don't see a mix of opinions here. I feel
No, no,
like
no, no,
the
no.
people watching the show are like, "Whoa, Robin, you are the problem. Whoa, Cody, you are the problem."
Yeah. In some way, Mary, you're the problem.
Mm, poor Mary.
Everybody, Christine, we salute you. God
Yeah.
bless Janelle.
We're rooting for you, girl.
We're rooting for you.
Get out.
I know.
So that takes us to episode 3.
Yeah.
This is the big fight. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say about it.
Yeah.
So it all revolves around Christmas. It's like, are we going to get together for Christmas? Are the kids going to want to see Cody? Because at one point he said they can't come for Christmas until they apologize.
Right, because to recap, Cody was really tight about COVID and he has 20 children, many of which are adults, and they continued to socialize and have friends, and their moms continued to see those children
And
rather
live
than
with those
complying
children.
and live with
Yes.
them rather than complying super strictly to Cody's rules, which, according to everybody, weren't very clear to begin with.
Yes. Apparently
He
he
just
kept them from them. They were kind of ambiguous, but
right.
also absurd. Like Janelle has repeatedly said, like, we were following the CDC guidelines. We just weren't following like your random set of arbitrary rules. It's also ironic because Cody like is an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah.
He also apparently, I mean, we've seen on camera, he like went to that wedding, he officiated a wedding. He like goes on these little man trips and is sitting indoors with people, but is like, we have to be 6 feet apart from my children. And when my sister wives get together, we have to sit outside. Like there's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, he's just being ridiculous. And he's just like, let's be real. The point of all this, he's just trying to blow things up.
Yeah.
And he can't do it himself. He's an immature little baby. He's a teenage boyfriend. He's the abusive teenage boyfriend who's like afraid to break up with his multiple girlfriends and is just trying to get them to break up with him so that he can still be the victim and throw a big fit and scream and cry because he loves to do it. And honestly, we love to see it. So,
I mean, it makes good TV.
It does.
Janelle straight up calls him out for exactly what you're saying. And she puts it in the context of their religious belief. Like, as the man, as the patriarchal core of this plural family, he literally can't end these relationships. That would be like denying his priesthood duty, right? Like denying his God-given role. I mean, he literally can't. So instead, he just treats these women terribly, ignores them for so long that they finally are like, okay, bye.
Yeah. That's enough.
He's been doing it with Mary for apparently almost a decade. Christine finally had enough, and Janelle's finally having enough of it.
Yeah, it's beautiful to see. One of my favorite things was his repeated use of the word gaslight.
He does not know what that word means.
No, he definitely doesn't know what it means. And my favorite part, because he used it like 17 times. And then Janelle turned it around and was like, honey, you're gaslighting me.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're just using that word because I used it.
Hmm.
And he said it in the most like 15-year-old boy way.
So condescending.
So
He
delightful.
thinks
I
he's
hate him
so
so much.
smart. Katie, oh my gosh. Another thing he says that made me want to throw like my TV across the room, where he's like acting like he's so smart. He's like, I've carried this family on my shoulders like Atlas.
Like
And the
Atlas.
minute I shrug, what? What? You think that that like makes sense or is
Yeah.
profound, or
What
like
do you think you're saying?
his his reference to Atlas Shrugged was almost too much to bear. So the fight. Again, context. Christmas, what are they going to do?
Right.
And because he delivered this ultimatum, we saw him do it,
Mm-hmm.
saying the boys have to apologize. And then he walked it back. But at that point, the damage is done, right? And you're the
Mm-hmm.
adult, you're the parent. You need to reach out to your kids, do something. But he won't. And so instead, it's Janelle's fault because she told them he said that.
Right. She
He
delivered
told
the
them the
message.
ultimatum, and
Right.
then everybody's pissed off and they don't want to talk to him. So that's her fault. And so now he's like, you've robbed me of contact with my family. Do you even understand that parents are supposed to be a united front? He's just saying all this condescending bullshit to her. He is calling her a liar. He's like, you've never supported me, been on
Supported
my
me.
side, respected
Mm-hmm.
me. Don't talk to the kids about me because you can't be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
Just throwing out crazy accusations. Like, imagine your partner, your co parent, saying these things to you. Someone you've been with for decades, someone who supposedly loves you. Like, wild
Yeah,
stuff
totally
coming out of
nuts.
his mouth.
She's a better woman than me.
Oh my
I would
gosh.
have lost my mind.
And she does fight back, and good for
Yeah.
her. I mean, she's like, I am not a liar. You cannot put this all on me. Like, you have said X, Y, and Z. You need to reach out to your kids. You are
Mm-hmm.
responsible for those relationships. Like, but he won't let her finish a sentence.
Right.
He's acting like a little brat. He's like, meh, 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 like mocking her, talking over her.
Yeah, when she says like, well, why didn't you reach out to the kids or whatever? And he literally said the phone works both
Yeah,
ways.
this is a parent saying that about his
Yo,
children.
unironically.
Ugh. Yeah, he doesn't get it at all. At one point, she says, I feel like you're being manipulative, or I feel like you can be manipulative, or whatever. And he's like, tell me how. It almost sounded sincere for a second. And then he points directly to the camera, looks directly into the camera, and says, tell the world how.
Yeah,
Ooh.
that was crazy.
That was chilling because it's like you're being manipulative right now.
Right
This
in
is
this
an example.
moment.
Everybody can see. I don't need to tell the
Yeah.
world how. You're doing it.
Yeah. And it made me wonder because obviously we only see these people in the context of like they're on camera, they're being interviewed or whatever. Like, how does them being public play into all of this stuff? Like,
Mhm.
because Cody is using it big time
Mhm.
against them in his own manipulative way and in his attempt to blow everything up. He's using the performance of it all. Because
Yeah.
at this point, I mean, he's performing.
Oh yeah.
And I think he knows it. And I think that they all are, and you have to be, kind of.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
like, you know, I'm sure it is confusing, but it also is it kind of gives you this like dramatic license and
Totally. He's
yeah.
like gunning for an Emmy here. You know, it's like a knife to the kidney. It's still ringing in my ears.
I know.
This
I actually
performance.
that was a great performance. I put down, "You have cheated me out of contact with my
Yes,
family."
I know. I wrote that down in all caps, the way he
Yeah.
said it. I mean, he was Laurence Olivier'ing that shit. And
Yeah.
he accuses them of doing this. You know, he's like, Janelle and Christine sit on this couch and say things that they haven't said to me. Well, Cody, if I recall, you've done that, like saying I don't think of Mary as a wife
Yes.
for the first time that she had heard it in an
Oh,
interview.
oh, I was so
She
upset
saw
when he
it
did
when
that.
we saw it.
Yeah.
I
That's a
mean,
fucked up thing to do.
yes, none of them have done anything even close to that level.
Right. And we're supposed to think he's the glue.
I know.
You're the glue?
He's the Atlas carrying the family on his shoulder. But Katie, sometimes you just gotta shrug.
Sometimes you gotta shrug it when
What
it
does
gets
it
too heavy
mean?
because you guys aren't carrying it with me.
So that fight ends just so dramatically. Like he's
Yeah.
like, I've had enough. I'm not listening to you. And I won't.
Right.
And just leaves, storms out, and she's like, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah, he pushes her as far as he can. You can
Mhm.
tell he's doing like the textbook thing where he's just like trying to make her as mad as possible.
Yep.
In that situation, I would be like throwing chairs. Like he is being such a nightmare. But instead of throwing a chair, Janelle says, "Shut your fucking mouth,"
Yes.
which
Right.
was awesome.
And well deserved,
Yeah.
honestly. The fact that he's the one storming out, considering all the things he had said, she kept it together.
Yeah.
And
I know.
he did not.
He didn't. I was a little disappointed that she said that because I was like, "Oh, now he can storm out and be the
I
victim."
know.
But it's not her fault. It's
No.
he just is good at being a nightmare.
Yes. It was a completely justifiable reaction on her part. But yeah, then he's just like, well, great. Here's my big moment. That's my
Yeah.
cue. Exit
Yeah.
stage left, you know?
Here we go. And
Um,
he literally the finger pointing and
yes.
it's
His
crazy.
curls just bouncing. He was getting so heated. He had sunglasses on top of his head, and he's getting so heated that they're sliding further and further back. And all I could do was watch the sunglasses tumbling down his curls.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
you look like a clown, dude.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um later, well, so the very next scene is basically Janelle being like, that was terrible. I don't think we come back from that. And now I'm worried about money.
Mhm.
Like, what's going to happen to my estate? What's going to happen to this house I want to build, to my financial future? Because I bet on this family, and that was not a smart thing to do.
Yeah. I worry for her.
I know. It's so brutal to think that, like, they've sunk so much money into this, like, property that they might just lose, into, like, Robin having a big house and a nanny, and Janelle is in this little apartment still just trying to figure out what to do next.
Yeah.
And he's
Did
clearly not
you
gonna help.
Right. Did you see that TikTok? Oh my gosh, I wish I knew the name of the creator. I don't think I saved it. They pointed out because there are brief little blips where you can see the inside of Robin's house, which
Mhm.
is a whole thing.
Mhm.
I mean, we don't know what's going on in Robin's house. For some reason, she's allowed to just say cameras aren't allowed here, and
Yep.
so we never see the inside. There are all sorts of theories. She's a hoarder or
Mhm.
whatever. That's not, there's no reason to believe that. But,
Except
that it
that
kind of
people
looks
are
like she's a
pointing
hoarder.
out, like, piles of stuff when you get little peeks into the house,
Sure. Though
like
some people,
boxes
I'm
and
reading the
boxes.
comments. I'm feverishly reading the comments. People are talking though about how Cody was up until recently split between several houses,
Mhm.
and now he's just in her place, so maybe that's just all his shit.
Yeah.
Regardless, looks a bit of a mess, but I was gonna say, inside Robin's house, which, they did buy furnished,
I know what you're gonna talk about. It's the art.
it's the art.
Yeah.
So, very interesting art,
Mhm.
very kind of disturbing scenes of a deer in a forest fire and just really, like, ugly. I mean, sorry,
Yeah.
whatever if
Sure.
you
Art is
like
subjective,
it,
but it's ugly and
but
strange.
it's ugly. It's ugly, yeah, it's
And
like weird beach art.
expensive as hell. Yeah,
Yes!
so this creator, like, reverse Google image searched the art that they have hanging on their walls in just one corner. There's, like, a shot from, like, a year or so ago, the last time they were, like, in Robin's house. And that one corner had, like, $25,000 worth of art hanging on the walls.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah.
they're spending money hand over fist potentially.
And there's just all sorts of I don't know. I'm highly suspicious about their financial situation
Mhm,
and where the funds they do have are really going, and
mhm.
I don't know, it seems like Cody is willing to neglect his wives in every way, so why would he not neglect them financially?
Yeah, I mean, TikTok creators who do videos about sister wives are just absolute gems, just
Yes,
queens of TikTok.
right. Mhm.
Um, so another creator on TikTok, again, I didn't save this. I totally should have. They were like cutting back to Cody saying to Christine, if you want to take a vacation, save your grocery money versus Robin's corner with $25,000 with art and her like $1 million house and this speculated like piles and piles of boxes at her door. Like the money is maybe not being distributed evenly. We also, in that third episode, after the big fight with Janelle and Cody, we get a sit down with Mary and Robin and Cody, where he's like, oh, I just had this big fight with Janelle. I don't even know what I was yelling. That gave me pause. He doesn't even
Yeah.
know what he was yelling.
Boo.
Go to a therapist
Yeah.
today. Like, what is
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah, this brings me back around to there have been several times where Robin has very pointedly said that Cody is so angry.
Mhm.
And it's always so angry. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that's like kind of a big and important thing that you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
it's a little bit freaky. Like, is he like, what is really going on? What's he going through? What's he really like?
Mhm.
You know, I honestly, if I'm just doing like a psychic reading on this, I think they're all gonna go. Honestly, I feel like Robin could go before Mary.
Interesting. I've seen some speculation about that on TikTok and people talking about how because she's older in these polygamous communities, like her commodity, her value as a woman is really low. So
Mhm.
if she were to leave, she would get picked up by another man, but she would essentially function as like a nanny
Yeah,
for the rest of her life.
right. Whereas Robin still has a little bit more youth and
Yeah, I mean, she's got clout with Cody. She's the only one who respects him. She's the
right.
only one showing him absolute loyalty. But I've also seen speculation that Cody's going to pick up other wives, younger
Yes.
wives, and then Robin may have to actually live plural marriage and she may hate that. So it is really interesting to think about these potential futures.
I'm, like, embarrassed to say that I had never considered Cody getting a new wife.
Hmm.
But once I got that worm in my ear,
Yeah.
that is definitely a possibility.
Especially when you see how he prefers his younger children. That's where he wants to like he likes the kind of hero worship of like a little child and their dad.
Yes.
that sort of like uncritical dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so getting married to a younger wife, having more little kids would sort of feed his ego in that way and
Mm-hmm.
replenish his quiver of wives that he needs to get into the celestial kingdom. So it doesn't seem to me like that's out of the realm of possibility at all.
No. I mean, honestly, if he's really, because we don't totally know what's going on with them, like, spiritually and, like, within their church or whatever, but, I mean, if he is still practicing within that fundamentalist sect, like, that's gotta be, like, I don't know, being brought up to him and, like,
Yeah, of course.
uh, yeah.
My understanding is he is still a part of the AUB.
Hmm.
Based on things I've read, based on TikToks I've seen, based on like analyses of the kids' Patreon content, like he's still in it. I mean, those dudes he meets with at the beginning of season 3 or episode 3 rather for his like man therapy, they're all in. They're all
Are
current
they?
practicing polygamous men. I thought so. Am I wrong?
No, I think he said one of them is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because one of them, maybe two, because his brother, I think, is in.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another guy. And then there's a guy who's like a never, who's like a mainstream Mormon.
I don't know. I've seen some compelling arguments that he's still in.
Hmm.
And that makes me think. I mean, yeah, he's an older man at this point, but older men in polygamy, that doesn't matter.
Right. And just look at his skin.
Jeez, that's why he's being so careful. Oh, he's moisturizing to get himself a young wife. There was one more thing that I found noteworthy in that conversation with Mary and Robin and Cody after his fight with Janelle. They're talking about Christmas, and he's just like, I only want to be around people who want to be around me.
Ugh.
And they decide Mary's gonna host Christmas Eve and Robin and Cody are hosting Christmas Day. And Mary asks, should I invite everybody? Because Janelle and Christine are gonna be Janelle's kids are gonna be in town. Like,
Yeah.
and like Mary is offering to be this bridge. Like, let me invite them. They'll come to my house. I mean, we have this tradition. Mary apparently always runs Christmas Eve.
Hmm.
And Robin says, that sounds scary. So the person who continues to claim to be like all in on this family working their stuff out, and I don't know what the problem is. I don't know why we can't get over it. When there are opportunities to like build bridges, she's like, no.
It would have been so easy
Mm-hmm.
to just let that happen.
Yep.
That's crazy. It's so sad. I had a feeling when I was watching the first episode of the new season, they were like showing lots of like throwback photos of the like family when they were young. And it's like sad, when you see this
Mm-hmm.
family with like all these little kids and it's like, they seemed like a lot more. I think things were really unstable, but they seemed happy. I think in their like romantic relationships where they were happier. And then like, man, things just went downhill so fast when
Yeah.
he married Robin.
And because the family is so huge, it's just so many people who are being like estranged from each other by
Right.
just a few adults behaving in a ridiculous way. Yeah, I agree. It is really sad, but it's also like really fantastic to see Christine and Janelle like taking a stand. Christine seeming to just thrive. Like she seems so much happier
Mhm.
outside of her marriage than she was inside of it. And good for them.
Amen.
I'm excited for a whole season of that.
I know. Any predictions? I think things with Mary are gonna like start to bubble over.
I think Christmas is going to be a turning point for Mary. She's already saying a lot more like, I'm an outsider here. I'm just kind of have a hanger on and it's
Yeah.
awkward and I don't really want to do it.
Yeah, she's making a lot of comments.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did we mention in the first episode of the season when she goes to Robin's house
Mm-hmm.
and Robin, number one, doesn't let her in, does not welcome her into the house.
Right.
They meet outside. and Mary doesn't have a coat. She came unprepared to be like hanging out outside.
Mhm.
And so Robin grabs her a coat and it's Cody's. And Mary is like, "Oh wow. Cody used to like offer me his coat back in the day." And she says, "It's almost like getting a hug from Cody. It's been a long time."
Ugh. She is so tragic. But she's saying it out loud now. She's, like, not pretending.
And like with a chuckle. It's so
Mhm.
bizarre.
It really is. I think Robin's out of there. I think Christmas is gonna be sort of the end.
You mean Mary?
Oh, sorry, yeah, I mean Mary. Robin, no. Robin, I think, is stuck.
Yeah. I think so too. And she's got the little kids.
Mhm. And to again, in a community like that, things like divorce, being a little older, she just wouldn't have the cachet to make it worth it to leave.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think she's stuck. And I think it's gonna suck. It's the bed she made, now she's gonna lie
Mhm.
in it.
I know, that's what you get for kind of blowing everything up.
Mhm.
Yeah, you don't just get, "Oh, I get this husband all to myself." It's no, you get this angry,
Yeah.
scary nightmare person.
And you lose the money that 3 other women were bringing in. So,
Yeah.
like, your financial future is compromised, your romantic future is gonna be a bummer.
Yeah.
And he is maybe gonna get some younger wives, and you're gonna have to, like, that's gonna be complicated to navigate, and she's not good at sharing. So we may talk to us again. No promises that we will not, because it is just a constant well of content. But one thing I wanted to talk about, all of this, watching all of this and just thinking about sister wives and polygamy, I want to talk a little bit more about like just the legacy of polygamy for our family and for mainstream Mormonism. Um this all started because a couple weeks ago an article came out by Jana Reese in the Salt Lake Tribune about a new biography of Joseph F. Smith. So Joseph F. Smith was a Mormon prophet. He's the uh, son of Hiram Smith, who was Joseph Smith's brother. So, he has that Mormon royalty in his blood.
Hey.
And this new biography of him apparently talks about what a like angry, traumatized, abusive man he was, as well as a great prophet. And reading just the article about the book, I was shook.
Hmm.
So, a couple of things that I want to bring up. Joseph F. Smith, the Mormon prophet, the son of Hiram Smith, he divorced his first wife, divorced him because he was like horrifically abusive to her. He would like physically beat her, but also verbally attack her. One little tidbit from the documents surrounding their divorce: he told her he would drill a hole in her head and fill it with manure because that would be better than her brain.
Damn.
Yeah.
Sick burn.
Right. Like, whoa, nice guy.
Yeah.
He also beat one of his neighbors almost to death as a 35-year-old adult.
Wow. Hmm.
So they're like, oh man, he's like got a murderous anger. Let's make him a general authority.
Yeah, you know what? President of the church.
Yeah. He also had several of his non-infant sons circumcised because he thought it would keep them from masturbating. The oldest of those sons was in his 20s.
Ooh.
So he has this real like barbaric,
Yeah. Sadistic.
angry, violent
Mhm.
side. So that was interesting. And that got me thinking. I was like, wait, Joseph F. Smith, aren't we related to him?
Hmm.
Because I've heard, family stories about all the
Yep.
polygamous connections. And I
Mhm.
was like, oh yeah, one of grandma's cousins one of Grandma's mom's cousins was one of Joseph F. Smith's wives. And when polygamy ended, she was not chosen. And so she kind of lived the rest of her life in poverty and isolation, which was what happened to these families that were not chosen at the end of polygamy. Happened to members of our direct family too. So I'd heard stories about this woman, and I was like,
yeah.
I didn't know that he was abusive and his first wife had divorced him. So I'm getting on Family Search. I have to say, I use Family Search more as an ex-Mormon than I ever used it as a Mormon. If mom and dad saw my Family Search activity, they'd be like, oh my gosh, you've got the spirit of Elijah in your heart. But Family Search is full of gossip. It's full of juicy little tidbits.
Yes.
So I was like, what's the deal? After divorcing his first wife, after she left him, was granted a divorce because of his abuse, he married 5 more women. Which, yikes. You can only imagine what their lives were like, right? He and that led me to look into like who Hiram Smith's wives were, who Joseph Smith's mom was. So Hiram Smith married sisters.
Oh,
good. And was also married to Joseph F. Smith's mother. When Hiram Smith died, because he was killed in Carthage jail with Joseph Smith, Heber C. Kimball scooped up Joseph F. Smith's wife, or mother, sorry, as his own wife. So these men would die, and other men would be like, "Whoop, she's mine now." Even though the whole argument, right, for polygamy is that all these women and children need to be sealed to a priesthood holder, but she already was. So why does she need to be sealed again? Why does she need to be scooped up again? Why does she have to go through this again?
I know. And it's like, oh, it's because they need somebody to take care of them. They need to be like provided for. It's like, then provide for them.
Right. Go ahead. You don't have to
you guys
force them to marry you and have sex with you to provide for them.
Yes.
So then I'm like, oh, Heber C. Kimball, weird that he then married Joseph F. Smith's mother. But then I looked into Heber C. Kimball, who we know from a previous episode was into 2 divining rods. So he's already on our radar. He was marrying 20-year-olds well into his 50s. He had dozens of wives. And many of them were teenagers when he married them. Many of them. He also is the father of Helen Mar Kimball, who is the 14-year-old that Joseph Smith was sealed to. And that makes it make sense, right? Because he loved marrying teenagers. So, of course, he let Joseph Smith marry his teenage daughter.
Sure.
This is what I found out that I didn't know. I learned this just from Family Search. So Helen Mar Kimball at 14 is sealed to Joseph Smith, who's in his 30s. He is killed not long after that. She, a couple of years later, marries a man named Horace Whitney. Horace Whitney and Helen Mar Kimball are married for time only because she's already sealed to Joseph Smith.
Sure.
And if you're not a Mormon, this is a big deal. This is the whole thing. This is the whole fucking point. Mormons get married in the temple for time and all eternity. The only way to get into the celestial kingdom, the highest degree of heaven, is to be married for time and all eternity. The whole point of polygamy is for all of these people to be married for time and all eternity. When you are married by a Mormon bishop but not in a temple, they explicitly say you are married for time only, not for eternity. Just to fucking kick your kneecaps. So she is married to Horace Whitney. She's still a teenager. For time only, she is resealed to Joseph Smith on that day. For who knows what the fuck reasons. She goes on to live her life married to Horace Whitney. They have 11 children together. Multiple of them are stillborn or die as infants. One of them grows up to be Orson F. Whitney. Remember that quote from the episode about we will have Shakespeare's and Milton's of our own? Sure. Orson F. Whitney, the general authority, Helen Mar Kimball's son.
Holy smokes.
She is not sealed to those children.
Whoa.
She is sealed to fucking Joseph Smith, who died when she was a teenager.
That's nuts, Elisa.
And like maybe they shook it out later and they let her be sealed. I don't know. All I know is
damn.
that is how she lived her life. And again, if you're not Mormon and you're like, what's the big deal?
It's a
This
huge deal.
is the whole point. If you're a Mormon woman who's having stillborn children and losing infant children, or even just having children who live their whole lives and you just love them, you know?
Right.
The whole reason to be sealed in the temple for time and all eternity is the promise that those children will always be your children. Your family will always be your family. If she's not sealed to them, they are not hers for eternity.
Yeah.
These stillborn children will not be hers. Worse enough, Whitney will not be hers. Her husband, who she lives her whole life with, will not be hers. It is crazy to me. And like, obviously, none of it's true, so none of it matters. But
right.
she
To
believed
her,
in it.
Right. Poor Helen. Poor Helen.
I know. I mean, all the way through.
Fuck.
Her dad,
Please
her
bless.
fucking Joseph Smith marriage, her everything.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where Family Search led me. And I was just like, this whole thing is a shit show and a sham. And women have been exploited and abused by it from day one.
Yes.
And there is like no other legacy here to talk about that's worth talking about.
Amen. I know. I really cannot believe the way that everyone in the church, and like honestly, especially women, overlook Joseph Smith's like marriages. I mean, to begin with. I mean, there's so much obviously, but I don't know. We even heard from women in our lives who are still in the church that they've struggled in the past with Joseph Smith and with his multiple marriages and his like marriages to young women, but they, blah blah blah, they prayed about it and done it. It's just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
It's not something they'll understand in this life, but in the next it'll all be made clear. No, it was wrong. Nope. It harmed people
for generations.
Yes, for generations. This is the other thing I learned on Family Search about our like personal family legacy of polygamy. Just digging around, trying to figure out how we were related to Joseph Smith's wives. I realized our grandmother's mother's parents were first cousins. And they were first cousins because they were polygamists, like offspring of John Taylor, who's the prophet, and they're trying to like keep that again, Mormon royalty legacy going. This is not an unusual situation. Like incest in plural marriage is a well-documented phenomenon to this day. But I think mainstream Mormons like to pretend that it wasn't really a thing for our version. And it absolutely was. It absolutely was. And like, just this week, I got a couple messages from folks listening to the podcast who were talking about the same thing in their family. Like, it is absolutely the legacy of polygamy.
Yeah.
In mainstream Mormonism, not in fundamentalist offshoots, not in extremist offshoots.
No.
Like, this is the mainstream legacy.
Yes, I know. Growing up, it's like, we are different from them. That is not what this is. It has nothing to do with us. It's like, we are so barely removed from them. Like we talked about in the Keep Sweet episode. It could have been us.
Yeah.
So easily.
Yep. It could have been us so easily.
If only John Taylor had chosen our family.
Right?
Instead of casting us aside. I literally look like him, okay?
Yeah.
Our grandma,
she was the spitting image, man.
Yeah, straight up. And I've been told I look like grandma.
I think you do. I think I do a little.
I think so too.
But you do for sure.
Yeah.
The Keep Sweet reference reminds me of another thing I wanted to bring up. So there is a TikToker, BJ the Lamanite, who creates like these amazing compilations of church leaders saying horrific things over the years on TikTok. And I shared one of his videos to our Instagram, and it was church leaders saying ridiculous things about women. And one of them was, women, make sure to avoid loud laughter.
Ugh.
So I shared that to our Instagram, and several people messaged about it. And a few of them who aren't Mormons were like, this is so weird. Why is he talking about laughter? And I realized that if you've never gone through the temple, you don't know that in the temple, one of the promises you make is to avoid loud laughter.
That's so stupid. Yeah.
It is one of like the core promises you make in the temple. There are only so many of them, and that is one. Every time you go to the temple, you're reminded to avoid loud laughter.
Okay.
And it just makes me think about like growing up. Do you think our parents were ever like, ooh, I'm laughing too loud?
Yes, 100%.
I gotta tone it down.
Without a doubt.
Ooh, I can't watch this because I enjoy it too much and it makes me laugh too loud.
Yeah. Honestly, but in a like bigger sense, and I love our parents. I
Of
don't like to talk
course.
about them. Whatever. They're still members and it's hard, but like whatever. I'm talking about this with a light heart. Sure. I think that they try to like stifle themselves and like
Merriment.
subdue. Yeah, they just subdue everything.
I think that's true. And I think it's because of the temple. I think it's because of the commandment to avoid loud laughter. I mean, that full promise is to avoid light-mindedness, loud laughter, and evil speaking of the Lord's anointed. If I'm remembering it right, I think I just quoted the temple ceremony from memory, which is
Spooky.
honestly a little terrifying. But those are grouped together. So light-mindedness, like, I don't know, like just having a silly goose time.
Right.
Don't do it. And if you do, certainly don't laugh loudly about it. And then like grouping that with evil speaking of the Lord's anointed, like if you have too much fun, you're going to criticize the church leaders or something. Like it's a weird little set of promises that you make. And I remember the very first time going through the temple, I was like, what?
Yeah.
But it was like a full, it revealed something to me about my entire life. I was like, oh, all the adults around me were worried about laughing loudly. No wonder we like kind of like, yeah, tone down the fun.
For sure. And like beyond just like laughter, just like not wanting to attract attention. Positive or negative. Honestly, negative attention wasn't usually an issue, but positive attention. I feel like our parents, or especially our dad, will like, oh, if they're getting positive attention for doing something, or people, if they're being praised, if he's being praised.
Take the spotlight off me. I don't want that.
Yeah. And it goes beyond just like not wanting attention. It's like he's like, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too about like, this is such a silly story, but when in 1995, I remember the year, it was a big year for me. The Seattle Mariners, which was our baseball team, went to the playoffs, did better than they'd ever done before. We were watching every game. It was like very exciting. And I remember, I want to say it was Jay Buhner. Somebody listening to this is going to know if I'm right or wrong. And I kind of love that challenge. I want to say it was Jay Buhner hit a grand slam that won the game, a big game. And I remember we're all in the living room watching, and Dad is standing because he's so into it. And he's so excited. He like raises his hands up to celebrate, hits the light fixture in the entryway, shatters it.
Yeah. Punches it.
Because he's so excited.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I don't know, we kids were tickled by that. We were like,
Totally.
I can think of so few times where I saw big reactions, like big feelings like that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially about something like fun, exciting, like, and I feel like our kind of story of that was like, wow, that was so funny and like cool, and dad broke the light. It was not funny to he and mom.
No.
It was not a story they wanted to like retell, relive, like have brought up. It was like very silently like cleaned up, replaced, not spoken of again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that in the context of like avoid light-mindedness and loud laughter. And like, did dad think he had sinned?
Yeah. Yeah. I totally see that connection now that you mention it. Like you talking about that, I was like 3 or 4 years old, and I remember
And
that
you
because
remember
it was so awesome.
And it was there are so few moments like that I can think of where like you saw one of our parents like truly like let go.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was so tight,
Mm-hmm. They're
tightly
just
held.
too good.
Yeah, they're good at being Mormons.
Good.
They're really good at keeping the rules. Yeah, they're really good at it. And this is a rule they're really good at.
Mm-hmm. And it's a rule that I could have never been good at for a single moment in my whole life.
I mean,
I think it says a lot.
I never tried to live it. After I went through the temple, I was like, that's a weird one. But I never, ever, not even once, caught myself laughing and was like, ooh, tone it down. You're laughing too loud. I could never. Like, what?
That's wrong.
That's wild to me. But I know there are Mormons who do that. I know there are Mormons who are doing that every day of their lives.
I mean, you can tell. You
Mm-hmm.
can tell when you're in the presence of Mormons. There's this subdued energy.
You can tell when you watch conference, when you watch little videos of the general authorities. David Bednar has not laughed loudly since he was a little boy, and he was scolded for it.
He sure was.
Yeah. You can just tell.
Mm-hmm. Let it out, Dave.
Yeah. So for all of our fellow ex-Mormons, let's just all have a great big loud laugh together. And for those of you who've never been Mormons, here's a weird thing you maybe didn't know.
Yeah.
Try to make your Mormon friends laugh.
Yes.
They could use it.
Could
use a good chuckle. Anyway, yeah, send us more DMs, emails. We absolutely love getting them, and it's like our favorite thing. We have gotten so many fascinating little messages lately about people's like the witches in their families and the incest and the relatives who apostatized who are like prominently featured in Mormon art. I can't get enough. I'm obsessed with all of it. Don't stop. So yeah, email us at pleaseblesspod@gmail.com. Message us on TikTok or Instagram at pleaseblesspod. And rate and review the podcast. I mean, we love it. We got a review this week. Because you may remember that our last episode, we went on a mini tangent about Tom Cruise. I promise I'm not going to repeat that here today, though I could. And someone reviewed the podcast as Ethan Hunt and was like, more Tom Cruise content.
That's awesome.
And I appreciate it because someone else on our YouTube commented, like, you're right, you did talk about Tom Cruise too much in this video.
What?
Which,
what a hater.
But I don't even care because that review came in on Apple Podcasts and I was like, this is all I care about. Ethan Hunt is a fan of the podcast.
Yeah, canceled it out. Thanks, Ethan.
Yeah. So rate and review the podcast. just in case any more haters show up, we really need you guys to say nice things.
Yeah, please.
We appreciate it.
And, we might talk about Sister Wives again, maybe at the end of the season. I don't know.
Yeah. Let us know what you want to hear.
Yeah, please.
We'll do what you say.
Anyway, love you guys.
Love you guys. Please bless this podcast.
Amen.